And so, we get this question a lot. Why is it that we do this work? Especially because sometimes this work can be really hard, as I'm sure many of you know. But we do it because we absolutely believe in the cause that we fight for. And that is every child deserves a quality, well-resourced classroom in their neighborhood. And that's really sort of at the very ground level. That's what this is about. But we also know that this has much wider implications, right? We want every child to have a great education, but we also know that our public schools provide all sorts of services to our communities. They're the very heart of our communities, especially in certain areas like our rural communities where our public schools are often a primary employer of the towns that they serve. We also know that great public schools and having great um, educated students allows our property values and it benefits our economy. All of those things are really great. But we also know just at the heart of it that public education really is the bedrock of democracy. If you've been able to follow some of the current news, you may have seen that vouchers are all over the news, all over the country. And that is because lots of people are having this conversation right now. What does public education mean to us as Americans, mean to us as a democracy, and as a country, of the people, by the people, for the people. And the reality is that if we want an educated populace, we want to educate our kids, if we want a future that is one that we can be proud of, that we look forward to, it is absolutely reliant on the success and health of our public schools. So with that, I will pass it on over to Beth to introduce herself and get this thing going, talking about our 2024 game plan. Beth.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you everybody for being here. This is my absolute favorite presentation of all of them because it's future focused and it's looking towards 2024, which is a year that I am very much looking forward to. My name is Beth Lewis. I'm one of the co-founders of Save Our Schools Arizona, serve as the director full-time. I was a classroom educator in Arizona for 12 years and I'm a PTO mom. So I've seen firsthand what it looks like when our public schools are defunded, discredited, and dismantled. And it's happening right in front of us. And there has never been a more important time to fight. So I'm really happy to be in this with all of you. Nikki, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us why you're excited for 2024? Oh, do you need to be unmuted?
All right, there we go. I didn't know that's the universal sign for panic. So my name is Nikki Andakovich. I'm the outreach director for Save Our Schools Arizona. I am very, very excited for 2024 because I've been in this fight for a very, very long time. I'm coming up on a decade here in Arizona with my family, and it has been very difficult having my kids in public schools, knowing that every year they're getting less and less, right? They're going without, their teachers are struggling even more. And 2024 is the first time I've ever felt like there's a very clear path forward for myself in this movement, for my family, and for our public schools that we love dearly. It is so important to my family that we stay in public schools. We love public schools. It's a big part of our community where we've lived previously and where we've recently moved to. And so for me, being able to see, where we're headed and how we can make this better finally is a huge change from previous years. So 2024 is going to be fun. It's going to be changing our state permanently and the trajectory for our kids. And I'm excited to be a part of that. I'm excited to just witness it and be able to say, this was the year that we finally got this thing turned around and started making positive changes for kids in Arizona. So how are we going to do it? It's really easy to be excited about the plan, but what are we going to do? How do you get there? For many years here in Arizona, we have recognized that public education has not been a priority for decision makers in this state. We've seen our schools be neglected. We've seen their funding be cut consistently. We've seen privatization efforts prop up for-profit education models that discriminate And it has not served well for our families and our kids. So we are looking to continue the work that we've always done here at Save Our Schools, but really do it in a big way in a year that we know we can make change. So that comes down to a couple of really key points. We have got to talk to voters about the candidates that truly support public education here in Arizona. Every single time that you talk to Arizona voters, they say we support public schools, but they don't always vote that way. And that's not because they're deliberately inflicting harm. A lot of that is just simply not understanding how to do what's best for public education and what their vote needs to look like. So it's on us to have those conversations. We need to keep this a number one big issue in the forefront of everybody's mind. When that ballot arrives, they need to connect that to their local public school immediately and say, yep, I heard about this. These are the people that I need to vote for to make sure my local school gets taken care of. And then, of course, get them to turn that ballot back in. We need a pro-public education legislature. We've known that for a very long time. If you've been watching bills down there, you know that our current legislature is not focused on what's best for public schools and kids in public schools. We need school board members across the state that also uphold those values around public education. We have seen school boards get distracted by culture wars and everything essentially except for what they're supposed to do. We need boards that are focused on teachers' retention, class sizes, student services, and what's best for our kids, period, end of discussion. This cycle, we are also going to elect all of your county school superintendents, except for one county. And so that's a big job. And we want to make sure those county school superintendents continue that support of public education all the way up to that, that position in your county. So it's a lot to do, but we've got a really good plan to do it. And we have a lot of friends to do it with. So don't get nervous. This year, unlike other years, we look at the ballot a little differently. If you're talking about public schools, that down ballot is really where we're going to stay. We want to focus on that. And you're going to see that reflected throughout our plan. So when you come and volunteer with us, you're going to hear us talk about those local races as being the most important of the state. It's a big part of what we do, and it is where these decisions are made. So we did this last cycle. We had a very big year here at Save Our Schools. We talked to a lot of voters. These are some of our numbers here, and I just want to note, I'm not going to run through all of them, but keep in mind that this was all volunteer led and executed. These are individuals that volunteered for Save Our Schools to knock doors, call voters, send postcards, send text messages, share social media posts. This is a volunteer driven association. So all of these things happened because people gave 2, 3, 4 hours of their weekend to come out and talk to voters about what is really important on that ballot and how to focus on those races that are closer to home that have huge impact for your family. As you can see, we got 2.2 million hits on our voters. Just to kind of explain what that means, basically what it means is we got in front of them and had a conversation with them on social media, at their door, or at their phones, text or calls. That is huge. That is a lot of people that have been exposed to how to support public education, and we're going to build on it and do it bigger because we just always do everything bigger here at Save Our Schools. So this cycle, we're going to do more because we need more. In 2023, we spent a lot of time here at Save Our Schools really focusing on how to build this program out. We wanted to make sure that we had as many people on board aware of these issues and ready to do this work. A lot of that is media driven. A lot of it is in the field. If you've seen the news around vouchers lately, obviously this program is bringing up a lot of feelings in Arizona voters. They don't like what they're seeing. And so they do come to Save Our Schools and say, hey, how do I help? I'm uncomfortable with this news around the voucher program. I don't like what's going on at my public school. And so we've spent the year really bringing in more of those volunteers. We spent a lot of time in rural Arizona this last year. If you've been following us, you've seen us. We hosted 4 rural action summits in Navajo, Yuma, Pinal County, and Cochise counties. Those are not your typical hotspots for voter activity, right? And that was deliberate. We wanted to make sure that we went to these communities and said, you are a part of this conversation as well. We value you. We're going to help you kind of support your local public school that's so vital in these rural locations. Tiny towns need a lot of support. And so we spent that time really getting in those communities and talking to them about those races that matter. We continue to talk to voters. That never stops here. That's a part of everything we do every single day. One of the things we spent a lot of time on this last year was working with other organizations and recruiting candidates for these offices. We can do all this work to educate voters, but if we don't provide a really solid candidate for these seats, we're not going to be able to get them across the board. So we made sure we went and spoke to community members that were invested in their public school and recruited them to run for office. That job's not done. I'm pretty sure that job is never done. So we're still looking at kind of what parent, teacher, community member can run in these local races to really support public education at the school board, and some of those other down ballot levels. So that was a big bulk of what we've done. We also did a lot of voter registration. Voter registration was a big part of our field program. You probably saw us on doors, out kind of with our little voter registration cards, talking to people about how important it is to be registered to vote, but also to get that early ballot, because we know it's vital. In a lot of areas of the state, it's even more important because you're in a competitive area where you've got a lot of races. You need to get that ballot early so we can kind of talk through it, and make sure you're supported as you see what's on there. Next one. Oh, now what do we do? We did 2023. We kind of built it all up. Now we need to roll out a very large program. And it says we're going to double what we did in 2022, which is pretty standard. I think the growth that we've seen in this organization leads us to believe that we absolutely can do that, and we must do that. We need to hit more doors. We need to talk to more voters. And we're going to have to do a lot more work than perhaps we did last cycle. And that's always the case. We're never done fighting for public schools. This has always been a marathon. It's not going to be a short sprint, but we have done great work building to make sure we're ready for 2024. You will see us rally around really great candidates. I can't wait for you all to meet them. I think you're going to love them. At the school board level and the legislative level, we've seen really great leadership out of our candidates coming forward and saying, I'm not going to stand for this anymore. Let's change the trajectory of these communities. We'll put out voter guides. You've seen that. Social media. If you're watching our social media, you know that team is amazing, and they do beautiful work. So that will continue, of course. Ballot parties, early voting, all of those things. And then, of course, that bottom bullet is the most important anytime we're doing this work, is please focus on those down ballot races. It's heartbreaking, last cycle, we had a number of races that were determined by just a couple hundred votes, and thousands had not voted in that race. And so it really, it breaks my heart to see that people did not make it down the ballot to cast a vote in a school board race that was decided by minuscule numbers, when in all likelihood, they probably had every intention of supporting their local school board and just didn't know that those local races lined up that way and that they were so vital for their kids. So that down ballot, you're going to hear a lot from us. All right.
Awesome. All right. So a lot of folks have been asking us, well, this sounds great. We absolutely want to, change the legislature. We want to change the balance of power, but is the math there? Right? You don't want to knock doors if you don't think that there's a path to victory, but there is absolutely a very clean path to victory. And we feel very confident that 2024 is the year. We typed up some of the incumbent candidates who have been previously endorsed by Save Our Schools. So I can kind of run through these. We didn't type up all of the candidates that have filed just because we haven't done our endorsement process. But like Nikki said, you're going to be meeting some incredible people in these districts. Just because there isn't a name doesn't mean that the people aren't running. They are. And there's been a really great disciplined, coordinated effort across many, many groups in this coalition to make sure that we're not over recruiting or under recruiting. So they're very smart people. I want everybody to kind of take a collective deep breath and realize that the right people are running, the right number of people are running, and the math is there. Some of these districts won't be your districts, but you can still help. We run statewide phone banks where people can call in from anywhere to these districts. We've run texting programs, postcard programs, and we even have people jump in for a little carpool and come down on the weekend and do some canvassing, knocking those doors. And so we really want to invite everybody to focus on these races as the best path forward. So LD2 is sort of North Phoenix, Deer Valley area. We've got Judy Schwiebert, who's already in the Senate, and we're hoping to add one in the House there. LD4, we have Christine Marsh and Laura Tarek already there. We want to hold those two. They're in the Scottsdale, Paradise Valley area, incredible champions for public education. Our job there is to get them reelected. LD9 is in Mesa. Again, we have a full slate of amazing candidates that all love our public schools. We've got Senator Birch and then Reps Blattman and Austin. We want to hold there. And that's a lot of work. When I say hold, this is not an easy task. There will be a lot of money poured in, a lot of disinformation being spread. And so we really want anybody in the East Valley to make it out to those Mesa canvases, drive an extra 15 minutes because they're going to need our help. LD13 is in Chandler. That's a tough district, but we do think that there's a possibility of holding the House and picking up one in the Senate. LD16 is out in Pinal County. We helped to elect Representative Seaman by, I think it was 0.62% of the vote last year. And he has been fantastic. He spent his whole life as an educator and a principal and a superintendent. So he's amazing. We're hoping to pick up one in the Senate there. LD17 is sort of northern Tucson, Marana area. Again, incredible candidates just declared, both pro-public ed in those areas, Senate and House. And then LD23 in Yuma. We have collectively we've missed the mark there the last 2 cycles. So if anybody's willing to drive down to Yuma with us, I know everybody at Save Our Schools is going to be canvassing a lot in Yuma, and it's going to be a lot of road trips, and it's going to be hiring people on the ground there because we have to win there. So you can see the math. There's a potential +3 in the Senate and +3 in the House. Good news is we only need 2 in each to flip completely and 1 to tie. Tying would functionally change everything. Of course, we would love to flip. So the math is there to tie or flip both the House and the Senate, which changes everything and allows Governor Hobbs to move forward with a pro K-12 platform, which we know she can execute once she has the right people in place. We can finally get out of 49th place for K-12 education. Let's hear it for that. So with school board, we really focus on school board races and often are able to combine those on a voter guide with the local legislative races. And people love it when you come to their door and you tell them about school board. They don't necessarily like the rest of it. They think it's sort of, they might think it's politics or, they don't necessarily love one party or the other or whatever. But when you come and you talk about local school board candidates, they get so jazzed. So we have over 600 school board seats that are going to be up for grabs this next cycle, which is bananas. We talk about this with friends across the country and they just can't even believe that that's possible because we have so many school districts. So we've been working to recruit, train, and elect pro-public ed candidates with a broad coalition of groups, focusing on making sure that those candidates really represent their community and they really understand their community because that's how we move school boards forward. We really need to protect boards that are considered, pro-public ed right now. And we're keeping a very close watch on boards that need to be flipped or are in danger of flipping, being overrun by Moms for Liberty types. So some examples of districts that we will be heavily involved in. This is not the full list. We'll be everywhere. But Marana, Catalina Foothills, Paradise Valley, Mesa, Deer Valley, Peoria, Yuma, Flagstaff, Chandler, Prescott, and Scottsdale are all going to need our help. And again, we're going to tie that with local LD candidates to make sure that we are working smarter, not harder. And we go to doors with K-12 education as our message. We know it works. We know it's the most unifying issue. It is the strongest issue to talk to anybody. It crosses party lines. It is a nonpartisan issue. This poll just came out a few days ago from our partners over at Stand for Children. This is a comprehensive poll that was conducted last month of likely Arizona voters. We see that 73, let me just make sure I get them the numbers right. 73% of voters agree that there's a need for additional funding. 55% understand that there is a great need, which we know to be true. And only 10% of voters thought that there was no need. So Arizona voters are paying attention. They really get it. They, like Nikki said earlier, they just don't always know who to vote for, and that's our job, is to let them know. Same poll, and I think you all are going to really like this. We just got the polling results, so we haven't gotten to go super wide, but we now know, with actually several polls that we've gotten recently, that reining in vouchers is a winning campaign issue. It is across the board, across party lines, an extremely good issue to talk about at the doors with voters. We know that once voters understand the voucher program, even they have one message, 60% of them strongly oppose and only 18% strongly support. And there's not a lot of undecideds. People know where they stand on this issue, and they do not like it. They do not like their taxpayer dollars being siphoned away from publicly governed public schools that serve all kids to institutions that pick and choose kids and squander our money. And they don't want it being spent on things like Lego sets and pianos and ski trips. And this is something that we've obviously as an organization have staked our claim on, and we're really proud that voters understand this issue. And we're really excited to go to doors and elect candidates around it. All right, Nikki, you want to take this one?
I will. So what's different in 2024? I get this question a lot, especially from advocates that have been in this fight for a very long time with us. Yes, every single election is important for Arizona kiddos. We have known what's going on in our public schools for many, many years. And all of them had opportunities for advancement, but some things have changed fundamentally in Arizona politics and our public schools. The first thing I will say right out the gate is the coalitions operating around these races, these candidates in our public schools have come together in a way that I have not seen previously, specifically around candidate recruitment. Last cycle, we had a lot of people that wanted to help, but maybe they weren't really sure how to help, and their organizations accidentally recruited too many, or didn't realize that their candidate was going to have to drop out last minute, or their candidate didn't get trained and it caused issues on their campaign trail. We have done a very, very deliberate, great job, I will say, reining people in and bringing together a coalition that really focuses on these races and doesn't make mistakes. Now, is it foolproof? Of course not. Nothing's foolproof. However, if we all stay together rowing in the same direction here, that coalition will make a huge difference. And it is the difference maker from previous cycles. Strategies like the single shot or opting to run 2 candidates instead of 3 at the school board level are very, very smart strategies. Now, I can't tell you where we're going to have to do this. That's a decision that we all need to make together. The coalitions that do this work are going to be discussing it, but we continue to say where we can guarantee a win or give ourselves more of an advantage by a single shot, we should. And you see that in the legislative races. And fortunately, the coalitions working on those candidates also recognize that we need to make changes at the legislature, and a single shot is oftentimes the best way to do that. School board races also might look at not necessarily a single shot, but a double shot out of 3. And so you will see some school boards where it makes a lot of sense to just run 2 candidates, even though you could have 3, to make sure that radicals don't flip that board on you, because we've seen how dangerous it can be when radicals are allowed to create policy and have any kind of power at the school board level. Our kids have paid a price for that. In Arizona and across the country, that is dangerous policy. So we really try to hone in on those organizations or even our volunteers to say, this is the smartest way to protect kids. Let's take a look at this election and do the best thing here. We have a lot of momentum here at Save Our Schools. We deliberately spent 2023 with our volunteers and in areas where other people weren't organizing. We did not come off doors last cycle. We never turned off the field program. We took a little break, but we did not stop our field work. And that has given us a really strong volunteer force that we can lean on to do a lot of this work. probably one of the biggest things that have changed in my assessment, what I've seen doing this work, is voters are very angry about this program. The voucher program has just absolutely sent some voters into a tailspin. They're angry about what's going on. And here's why. Their kiddos are in these public schools. They're seeing what their kids are going without, just like I'm seeing what my kids are going without. And then they're watching this voucher program balloon out of control to almost $1 billion a year. And they're seeing the waste coupled with $1 billion program that's unaccountable, and they are mad about it. And they have every right to be mad, and they should be mad. That and the national interest that is pointed at Arizona has really given voters a lot more information about this than they typically would have. And it's done some of the work for you. There was a time in Arizona where you could ask almost any voter what a voucher or ESA was, and they would have no idea. And it wasn't that long ago. So for years, privatizers were able to operate in private in Arizona, and voters weren't aware of how much damage they were doing. And that is not the case anymore. We did watch the election cycles in this previous November, which was an off year. Happy to report Moms for Liberty did really terribly across most of the races they involved themselves in, which is really good news, because that model of creating chaos and stoking violence and hate at the school board level, there was some fear that might work. And I know I was terrified at my kiddo school district. Those board meetings going crazy like that, and police officers showing up. I just couldn't accept that that was the new reality for our kids and our school board members. And so to see this group go down in flames, and when I say down in flames, they lost like 70 to 80% of their races. They did very poorly. And that's really good for anyone who wants, as I saw in the chat, bring back boring school board meetings, which I think is a really great campaign slogan. Those should not be that exciting. Police officers should not be hanging out at school board meetings. That is just a horrible model for doing what's best for kids. So a lot of reason to be very, very hopeful in 2024. And I'm sure there's more, and we're going to get more before this is over. I'm certain of it.
I'm not a betting person, and I don't have any extra money around Christmas, but I would put every single cent on us definitely winning in 2024, up and down the ballot. So I'm very excited. I do think that it's going to depend on one thing and one thing only, and that is volunteers. All of us. It's all of us getting out and doing our part. And it doesn't mean that everybody has to canvass. Not everybody is going to be a canvasser. We understand that. It's, I think, more than anything, taking what you're comfortable with and maybe taking it one step further, right? Maybe you could be a driver for a canvas. Maybe you'd like to do some lit drops. Maybe you'd like to help do some research behind the scenes. There are so many ways to plug in, and there's so much work to be done. And I think as long as everybody jumps in, all in, we absolutely have the path to victory. We know Arizona voters have made it clear what they want. We just have to get them the information that they don't have. It seems crazy to all of us on this call that people don't know who is a pro-public education candidate and who isn't, but they just don't know. And they don't necessarily have a great way of finding out unless they hear from somebody in their community or somebody who drove over from the neighboring community to tell them about this. And we are the most effective messengers, right? Parents, teachers, retirees, community members, people who really care and believe in their hearts that every kid has the right to a quality, well-funded public education. Like, there is no better messenger than that. We've been fighting for so long, so long. It says 7 years. It's been longer than that, but we're right at the cusp of victory. So I hope you all can take that to heart. I hope that you all will feel emboldened by this information, by the polling, by just understanding that if everybody does their little part and maybe helps us add a few more friends to our growing army, we can outknock, we can outcall, and we can win.
All right, I'll jump in a little bit here. So what's next? First of all, you all are not the first people to hear it, but definitely close to the top. That Save Our Schools is officially launching a Maricopa and Pima County Rural, or not rural, Action Summit. These events in rural communities have been huge. We've had over 150 people at almost every event, with the exception of one that was in a smaller community. These events really do give us the opportunity to get in front of our volunteers and our activists, our parents, our teachers, our community members, and say, this is the fight that we all need to be in. Let's all hone our skills. Let's figure out how a phone bank works. Let's talk about these numbers. Let's figure out what canvassing looks like. Let's kind of have all of those conversations in one day. So you come in, it's trainings all day long. You get to meet with some really great partner orgs. You'll get to meet the entire Maricopa Save Our Schools team and then the Pima County team, and have conversations with them about what we do to assure that 2024 really does set down some changes that our state needs. I do not have dates out on that yet. That would have been breaking news, but it will be coming shortly. We are scouting locations right now to fit what we think will be upwards of 250 activists in a summit here in Maricopa County. That's a big number. It's also a huge opportunity to really get in front of people that will do this work and get them excited. Everybody kind of lean in. It is much easier to go canvassing when you have a big team, right? Especially if you're with me, because I do it all the time and I'm crazy. So if you get to meet the people that will be knocking doors, you will feel more comfortable. I assure you. I've taken a lot of people canvassing for their first time and they're like, I don't want to do this. This seems terrifying. And within a couple doors, and they see that I survived it, they start saying, this isn't as bad as I thought. People really do want to hear from you. When Beth says that we had voters clamoring for school board information, that is real. That is serious. We had record response rates on our text bank because these voters were like, I don't care about this other stuff. What's up with my school board? And so when you knock on that door and you lead with that, they react the same way. It's a very good, easy way to kind of come in. So if you can make it to the summits, that's going to be a big step forward in your activism. Bring a friend who knows nothing about nothing, and it will be even more fun. Legislative accountability work, that that could be a year-round 70-hour work week on its own, given what they do down there. But it's an important part of what we do, right? You cannot allow these dangerous policies to go unchecked. We need to tell our neighbors what's going on down there. It's unfair. A lot of volunteer trainings. I already kind of covered that. You can always, I don't care where you are, what you're doing. If you want to come knock doors with me, you can absolutely shoot me an email and be like, can we just cut a turf and go together? And I will do it, because I love knocking doors more than anything else that we do. And same goes for phone banks. Rachel is the queen of the text bank and the phone banks, and she can teach you that stuff better than I could at the doors. But there's somebody that will kind of pull you along and help you every step of the way on what we need to do here. And then the last piece, keep recruiting, keep training, keep electing pro public education school board members. If I haven't already nailed it home, these races are so important to our kids. We will never let go of our boards. If they thought it was going to be an easy fight when they tried to flip them all, I hope that they figured out last cycle when they lost that it's not going to be, and it's probably going to be even more difficult for some of these radicals to hold any kind of power in our communities, given what we've seen out of them in the last 2 years. I love it. I even might see, oh, there's some school board conversations in the chat, which I always love.
Awesome. Oh, well, there's so much great information here. I'm hoping that everybody, when the recording becomes available, that you get a chance to go back and relook at some of this really powerful strategy, as well as the data that supports it. I have to tell you, I know that in this work, it can feel really hard at times, but I honestly have never felt more optimistic. And I've been feeling that way for a little while now. Going into 2024, we at Save Our Schools Arizona feel good about these plans that we're putting into place, and that we are moving forward with your support. Now, we also wanted to talk a little bit about our recent fundraising. We did have our trivia night fundraiser on Thursday, which was a blast. If you were able to join us, thank you for joining us. But it is, the fundraiser was to announce, and we will continue to discuss, the Public Education Defense Fund, which is funding going towards electing pro-public education candidates across the state and at every level. Early donations will go further and allow us to start earlier. And that is crucial. It is crucial for us to get going and get started on these actions like texting, like knocking, like all of those things that Nikki and Beth just discussed. So as far as winners, and I know that it's being addressed in the chat. So Marcy Hutchinson and Tyler Couch won our trivia contest, and that was so much fun. I'll be reaching out to both of you about your prizes shortly. As far as yes, we had a very competitive scavenger hunt that that was so much fun. I think we'll probably bring that back. The West Valley won that one, although it was very close. As far as our fundraising winners, excited to share that the Phoenix team was our top team fundraiser, which is awesome. That includes our Central, South Phoenix, and our Northeast Valley. So grateful for all of you who were helping to support that team, as well as our individual top fundraiser, which is none other than our very own Raquel Mamani. So we're so grateful to you and to every single one of you who donated to this fund. And I'll mention that we are just a little short of our fundraising goal. So I am going to, let's see, whoops. I'm going to stop sharing just for a minute. And Raquel, we're so grateful for you. I love that there were so many people who just like came out of the woodwork and surprised us all in the end. It was so much fun. So let me share my screen one more time just to show you guys where we're at. There we go. All right, so last count, we are 84% of the way there. We are at $16,801 even, which again, we were at like 10,000 short a week ago. And so that is incredible. We absolutely are determined to get to 20,000 though by January 1st. So we are going to continue fundraising. So if you're able to right now, give a little bit, you know, $5, $10, everything that goes towards this is again going to be helping to elect our pro public education candidates, from school board to legislative district to county superintendents like Nikki had talked about. And so your help is greatly appreciated there. All right, before we close out, Beth or Nikki, is there anything else that you'd like to say?
Well, I always want to talk, so love an open mic. Thanks, Rachel. One thing I think I just want to kind of reiterate with this team is everything that we do with our voters has impact. And I know that in Arizona, it can be super frustrating to be like, oh, we got to do this again. How is this going to be any different? And that's, it's easy to fall in that trap, right? It's easy to be like, it makes no difference if I don't show up for this phone bank. It makes no difference if I made 30 calls and, you know, those calls aren't there. But the races in Arizona, it does make a difference. These races are tight. We saw school board races that were heartbreaking for us as a team, that were incredibly close. And I know every single volunteer and member of the Save Our Schools team said to themselves at one point, I could have done more. Why did I not canvass that Sunday? Why did I not do that phone bank? And we can do that all day. But it does make a difference. Every single hour that you give doing this work, talking to voters matters. And I know that sounds really, I don't know, cheesy, and it's kind of like the usual line, but in a state where everything is razor thin, it does matter. So if you don't know how to phone bank or you don't know how to knock doors, just kind of take that first step. You don't need to know the entire journey you're going to be on, but you can just take one step with us. And if you hate it, you know, we won't hunt you down. I promise. If you totally hate doors and you never want to do them again, don't do it. Go to phones. If you hate phones like I do and you want to go to doors, absolutely, you should do that as well. There is no commitment. We're not recruiting you for a job. but spend the time that you have doing something that will forever change what happens to Arizona kids going forward. We know, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, and it keeps kind of weighing in my mind. Save Our Schools Arizona is the team that did deal with the first universal voucher program in the country. We were heartbroken that this was ever even allowed to happen in our state. But we are also, with all of you, the first team that will get to roll back vouchers and put a stop to all of the damage that is being inflicted in our communities. And so for me, getting to be a part of that is huge. I'm grateful for all of you and the time that you spend here, but I'm also grateful that I get to be here for my kids and I can tell them I was there when we put a stop to this. I was there when we rolled it back and we won against the billionaires. And they probably won't think it's amusing until they're in their 20s, and that's fine because they don't care right now. But someday they'll realize that their mom was really cool and this was a battle and we won. So please lean in. If you need help, you have great team members. The community action team leaders are wonderful to work with. I know because I get to do it all the time. Please just reach out and bring a friend. It is better if you have a buddy. Even if they just drive you around, even if they know nothing about anything you're talking about, they can just drive you around and keep the air conditioner going. So pair up and let's get to work.
Thank you so much, everybody. Like Larry said in the chat, we can't win every battle, but we can win the war. And I think Nikki's right. I love that like longitudinal view. When we look back, there are going to be history books written about this moment in time when they tried to privatize our public education, when they tried to create segregation academies, when they tried to destroy our democracy. And they're going to look back at Arizona as one of the places that decided to stand up and just say, no, get off our lawn, get out of here. We support democracy, we support public education, and we're not going to let it happen. And every single one of us on this call and throughout the state is going to have a part in that. So keep the faith, right? Keep the hope. Even when it's hard, we've got you. And I am really excited for this next year. So happy New Year, everybody. Happy holidays. We'll catch you in the new year and we'll flip this state for good.